something in my brain. If I didn't, I'd probably go insane. I'm sorry I'm an asshole. That's just how the raps go. Sorry that I do this shit every day.
What? Yeah, I'm on my ego death. I had to reassess, I had to resurrect. Yeah, hey, I just wanna be the best, but I had to reassess. Is now I'm feeling less. Yeah, my songs about pulling like yay. They think they controlling my fate. Cut to the charter, no y'all on our rappers, you just some ad-libs like hey. I just put up back in black, drop a hit, they react to that. Now they see this and they acting mad, like I'm Kanye in a MAGA hat. I'm so alone. See, I've always been one and only, even back when this gold chain was made out of macaroni. Now they always asking me what happened to the old me. I wish I could have told him goodbye, wish he had known me. Wish that I could tell you about how everyone would know you, and tell you that it's worth it despite everything they told you. Crying silent in your pillow saying I wish I was homeschooled, too afraid to sing your songs because you thought that they will roast you. I was 9, friends told me I would go lose. Now it's time, I think I gotta show you. That's my mind, say I don't care, but I so do. Having trouble walking up a mile in my own shoes. Never used to bet on me and now they like I owe you. Looking back at them like the fuck I do not know you. When I make a milli, motherfucker, I'ma show you what I had to go through to feel like I'm supposed to. Ego, I don't need no other people in my trio. Myself, I am me though. We know we don't need no kilos. My watch, Frio, yeah.
Hello, 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 hello. Oh my gosh. Hi, y'all. So nice to see you. It's been a very long time, and I will own up to that. I know I haven't been live in like 2 months, legitimately. But thank you so much to y'all who are here right now. And yeah, we're not really playing a game today. We're reading. I don't know how many of you follow me on Instagram. I have it down below. But my sister, my twin sister Megan, she's been on my stream before a while ago. She got this new book in the mail and she was reading it out loud to me, and it reminded me how much I love books and reading and hearing people read books to me. And did that make sense? Did I say words just then? Hearing people read books to me? I hope that's what I said. But yeah. And it reminded me that I used to do that once upon a time. So, words good. Words good. This tea is way too hot. I don't know if I've shown this mug before, but I love it so much. The camera's flipped around so you can't read it, but it says New Hampshire, live free or die. And then it says rugged, untamed on it. And it's just a photo of a moose, and it's from Walmart. And I love it so dearly. This needs to sit, though, because it's burning my hands. I will only drink it when it is lukewarm and disgusting. But yeah. That's how I am doing. I stopped streaming as much because of finals, right? Finals, wanting to pass classes. You're also gonna make tea. Good for you. But yeah, finals, wanting to pass classes. Horrible. I was in the same boat as you, Jesse. And I passed all of my classes, thankfully. But then I got back to New Hampshire and I started my job. I'm working in a catering company right now as a prep cook. And I just could not find the motivation to start to stream again. It wasn't that I wasn't, having fun, because streaming is so much fun. And I really enjoy doing it, and it's a great excuse to get to sit down and rewind. Rewind? Yeah, that's the word. I couldn't decide if I wanted to say relax or unwind. But it's a cool way to rewind and get to read or play games or just talk with y'all. And yeah, I needed a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a reminder. Did you get that mug when I saw you at Walmart and avoided you like the plague? Are you talking about when you saw my twin and my mom at Walmart? Because I haven't been at Walmart. Kind of awkward. I also got to do my nails. I can't really, I don't want to bring them that close because they're not very well done. But I can't have them done at work, and I have work off for like 5 days. So I was like, fake nail time. But yeah, I saw what you said, Talk a Lot. Sorry it took me a very long time to answer. But yeah, let's switch over to that reading screen, shall we? Notice how the crop is a little bit different? There's no consistency here. Oh, also, I don't know if you just heard that dog bark in the background. You might have heard it just then as well. I'm home now, if you couldn't tell. I moved back to New Hampshire, as I just said. And, it's a loud house. We all live here. You might hear my dad yelling at the dog, after the dog barks. You might hear one of my sisters or my mom laughing very loudly or also yelling about something. That's just what happens. We went from the calm quiet of my dorm room where I was guaranteed the loudest person there to, you know, this. Want you to make noise? No, y'all. Oh, God. Sorry, I just needed a moment. Okay. We're fine. I love this. I'm having fun. But, yeah, let's switch over to other music and start reading, shall we? It's been so long, so for those of you who do not remember, we are reading 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. We're reading a copyright-free version under the Gutenberg files, and we are on chapter 19. We're almost done with part 1. Can I eat your ice cream? My ice cream is delicious, so I understand you wanting to partake, and I guess I will allow. It is called Boston Chow Chow, the ice cream, and it is a sweet corn cereal base with cone pieces, I believe chocolate cone pieces, and either a caramel or a peanut butter swirl. It's delicious. 69,000 miles under the sea. That is a... Yeah, I've done that. I did do a clickbait title of that. I'm not proud of that. Let me, jarringly stop this music. There we go. And start up the YouTube music, which should be very quiet. I don't want it to be loud. Start at the beginning. It is loud. Is it loud for anyone else? Oh, you can't even hear it. I'm just a baby. There you go. How is that sounding, that audio? Yeah, it was Grennan. Sorry, I stopped the Grennan in favor of this. Where we left off, by the way, in 20,000. Okay, cool. Thank you for telling me it's loudish. Where we left off in 20,000. Hold on. Give me a second to adjust. There. I hope that's good. Where we left off in 20,000, Cam, sing me a song from Fiddler on the Roof. Maybe in a sec, I'm doing my recap. Where we left off, there was a sinking ship that they had just encountered. They've seen many wondrous things while Professor Aronnax, Council, and Ned Land have been stuck on the Nautilus under the sea. Many sights. They went underwater fishing/hunting in a forest. They've been learning how the Nautilus works and how the electricity works and how you get like food and all that stuff. And they also saw that sinking ship and saw these people dying. And that was the somber chapter that we left off on last time. Chapter 18. But now, alas, not alas, at last, we are starting chapter 19, and I'm super excited. Sing you a song from Fiddler on the Roof. What song shall I sing from Fiddler on the Roof? I'll give you a little excerpt of one. If that's not love, what is? You're welcome. Sorry, I didn't try very hard. I don't remember Fiddler on the Roof very well. That was years ago. Let me try... Oh, I got one. No, do I? Oh, yeah, here we go. If I were a rich man, all day long I'd diddy-diddy-dum. If I was a wealthy man, There, that's your Fiddler on the Roof. Perfect. I'm sorry I did that. But you asked for it. Okay. Here we go. Also, before I get into it, just want to remind people. Number 1. There are some hard to pronounce things in this. I will try my hardest. I am not a professional speaker or reader, as you can tell probably by the words that I just said. Number 2. Sometimes the author, Jules Verne, does just list a bunch of different things. Like scientific names or just lists and lists and lists. And I might get bored and I might skip them. Again, I'm not a professional, and if you really want to go through and read all of that cruff, then you can. I promise I'm not skipping everything. I'm just skipping the things that are super dense that do not add anything to the story. And number 3, this book did take place in the 1800s. That's being said, obviously, things were a lot different back then. Y'all are having fun with Fiddler on the Roof, huh? Things were a lot different back then, and some of this might be outdated. And it does touch on topics like death, and they are technically the main characters in this boat against their will. So there you go, remember that. Also, hello everybody. Again, it's been so long. Thank you for stopping by. I got a haircut. I'm not sure if you can tell because I shaved my head and it was growing out in the 2 months it's been since I streamed, and then I cut it again. But yeah, feel free to ask questions or make comments on what I'm reading about, or you can put this on in the background while you play video games yourself or do other things. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm just happy that you're here, and I'm happy to be doing this again, because I really do like it. Alrighty, here we go. Did my face get brighter when I switched onto this screen? I bet it did. Chapter 19, Vanikoro. This dreadful sight was the first of a whole series of maritime catastrophes that the Nautilus would encounter on its run. When it plied more heavily traveled seas, we often saw wrecked hulls rotting in mid-water, and farther down, cannons, shells, anchors, chains, and 1,000 other iron objects rusting away. Meanwhile, continuously swept along by the Nautilus, where we lived in near isolation, we raised the Tamatau Islands on December 11th, that old, dangerous group associated with the French global navigator Commander Bourgainville. It stretches from Ducie Island to Lazarus Island, over an area of 500 leagues from the east-southeast to the west-northwest, between latitude 13 degrees 30 and 23 degrees 50 south, and between longitude 125 degrees 30 and 151 degrees 30 west. This island group covers a surface area of I'm sorry, I can't do numbers very well. And also, notice what I said? He's just listing things right now. It's world building. Sorry, going on a tangent again, this is one of the things I really like about Jules Verne. Even though it seems very information dense, I think that including a bunch of information like this and doing all of the justification that he does, basically I think it was chapters like 13, 14, and 15, was just basically explaining how the Nautilus operates. I really like world building things like that because it leads me to ask questions with this book that I don't often ask of fantasy books, because I usually just suspend my disbelief. But it almost feels as if Jules Verne wants you to question the stuff he's writing, and he wants there to be an answer. For instance, today I was cleaning oysters and poaching shrimp, and I had the thought, on the Nautilus, all they eat is seafood. Do they have spices? Like, I know they've probably talked about this, because I feel like Jules Verne basically has all his bases covered. I'm just having a moment right now. But, do they have spices? I know they have salt. For sure they have salt. Like, what seasonings do they use? Are you just eating unsalted seaweed and unsalted fish? Because that's kind of gross. Your voice hurts today? Oh my god, I just noticed you're basically threatening to be at my house. What about Peppa? Sea is salty, no need to season it. I don't just want salt. Whatever. Here we go. The island group covers a surface area of 370 square leagues, and it's made up of some 60 subgroups, among which we noted the Gambier group, which is a French protectorate. These islands are coral formations. Thanks to the work of polyps, a slow but steady upheaval will someday connect these islands to each other. Later on, this new island will be fused to its neighboring island groups, and a fifth continent will stretch from New Zealand and New Caledonia as far as the Marquesas Islands. See, there's something. The fifth continent! Are we going out of order? Or, in the 1800s, did we not consider there to be other continents? All 8 of the I'm kind of worried. What's my favorite spice or seasoning? I can tell you what my least favorite spice or seasoning is. And don't roast me for this, I'm just going off of smell. Cumin really it's really off-putting. Like, I'll eat things with cumin in it, I don't mind, but at work the other day I was making a marinade or a rub of some kind, and I thought it was going great until I added cumin, and then I just started to have a very hard time. I thought it smelled horrible. I was having a difficult time. I also used to not like cilantro, but now I do like cilantro. My favorite spice or seasoning, I love garlic and onion, just anything of that type. Chloe will make fun of me at school because Hofstra will serve us things that definitely have much too much garlic or onion in them, and I will eat them and not say anything. So if I'm eating something and I tell you that it has too much like onion or garlic in it, or shallots or anything of that type, you know they messed up. You're only coming over for Griff and my mom. All 8 of the continents. Am I having a moment? 7. Sorry. 8 of the continents, including this 5th continent from New Zealand and New Caledonia. Anyway. One day I expounded this theory to Captain Nemo, and he answered me coldly. The Earth doesn't need new continents, but new men. Sailor's luck led the Nautilus straight to Rio Island, which is not spelled the way you'd think. Ah, I got a notification. Oh, thank you for following me. Oh my gosh, you can tell I haven't streamed in a very long time because I just heard one notification and went... But thank you so much, Mari. I'm assuming I can call you that. I'm glad you saw something that made you want to stick around. Thank you for having a computer and for being able, or whatever device you're on, and for having Twitch. That's a reasonable thing to thank people for. Here we go. One of the most unusual in this group, Rio Island, which was discovered in 1822 by Captain Bell aboard the Minerva. So I was able to study the madreporic process that has created the islands in this ocean. Madrepores, which one must guard against confusing with precious coral, clothe their tissue in a limestone crust, and their variations in structure have led my famous mentor, Professor Milne Edwards, to classify them into 5 divisions. I'm going to skip this because he is just talking about limestone deposits on rocks. I don't think you can find anything useful in this paragraph. I'm sorry. While cruising along only a few cable lengths from the underpinning of Rio Island, I marveled at the gigantic piece of work accomplished by these microscopic laborers. These walls were the express achievements of madrepores known by the names fire coral, finger coral, star coral, and stony coral. These polyps grew exclusively in the agitated strata at the surface of the sea, and so it's in the upper reaches that they begin these substructures, which sink little by little together with the secreted rubble binding them. This, at least, is the theory of Mr. Charles Darwin, who thus explains the formation of atolls, a theory superior, in my view, to the one that says these madreporic edifices sit on the summits of mountains or volcanoes submerged a few feet below sea level. Where's your Maxi Boo thing? I don't know. I don't know where Max is. Max! For anyone who doesn't know, Max is one of my mods with Jesse. I do have a complex relationship with rocks. I think they're cool. I'm not gonna say sexy. But these aren't rocks. These are, some type of not coral, because it said it was a tissue, right? With a limestone crust that builds up walls. And they just explained the theory for how they do that, as brought forth by Charles Darwin, which was probably fairly recent at the time this book was written. I could observe these strange walls quite closely. Our surrounding lines indicated that they were dropped perpendicularly for more than 300 meters, and our electric beams made the bright limestone positively sparkle. In reply to a question, Consul asked me about the growth rate of these colossal barriers. I thoroughly amazed him by saying that scientists put it at 1/8 of an inch per biennium. Therefore, he said to me, to build these walls it took 192,000 years, my gallant consul, which significantly extends the biblical days of creation. What's more, the formation of coal, in other words, the petrification of forests swallowed by floods, and the cooling of basaltic rocks likewise call for a much longer period of time. I might add that those, quote, days in the Bible must represent whole epochs, and not literally, or epics? I don't know how you'd say that. I'm going to say epoch. And not literally the lapse of time between two sunrises, because according to the Bible itself, the sun doesn't date from the first day of creation. I'm not a huge, Bible person. I'm kind of confused. Sup, gamers? Oh, Max is here. Also, what are you clipping? I'm nervous. What'd you clip? Let's not pay attention to that. Also, hi, pancakes for hands. Screw biblical fact. You're the person that just in the other room were talking about the Bible. I don't know why, though. Oh, we're talking about Fritz Weatherby, people from New Hampshire. You know him. He has a special on New Hampshire Chronicle where he basically will show up in a random New Hampshire town and tell a story, like a historical thing about it. I believe he makes up his stories. I think they're fake. I think he just speaks. And this isn't really slander, I don't think. People would say it's slander, but the stories he tells are... So back in the 1800s, the cousin of the first peanut farmer decided that this would be the perfect place to raise his niece and their array of show chickens. And then it's just something like that where it's like, number one, how could I prove that? Number two, why would I care about that? But I digress. I said that I thought he was lying, and Megan said, well, I just equate it to the Bible. I don't know if it's true, but I choose to believe it anyway. I know it was a joke, but... Fritz! You stopped watching an interview? Thank you. I love that for you. You met Fritz? Damn. Interesting. I bet you he's kooky. Alrighty, what am I doing? Okay, they're talking about the biblical days of creation, not really, but they talked about this big coral, not coral, but they said coral equivalent walls. When the Nautilus returned to the surface of the ocean, I could take in Rayo Island over its whole flat, wooded expanse. Obviously, its madreporic rocks had been made fertile by tornadoes and thunderstorms. One day, carried off by a hurricane from neighboring shores, some seed fell onto these limestone beds, mixing with decomposed particles of fish and marine plants to form vegetable hummus. Nope, that's not hummus, that's humus. They were not making hummus. Maybe they were making hummus. Propelled by the waves, a coconut arrived on this new coast. Its germ took root. Its tree grew tall, catching steam off of the water. A brook was born. Little by little, vegetation spread. Tiny animals, worms, insects, rode ashore on tree trunks snatched from islands to windward. Turtles came to lay their eggs. Birds nestled in the young trees. In this way, animal life developed, and drawn by the greenery and fertile soil, man appeared. And that's how these islands were formed, the immense achievement of microscopic animals. One tiny note there. I know for a fact that coconuts are waterproof, but not terribly waterproof. I don't know if it would have lasted. We're talking about, I said coconut, not acorn, right? My brain is completely, in my brain, I just finished that sentence, and then my brain started thinking about acorns, and I was like, did I just No, we're fine. Oak trees are not growing on these tropical islands. I'm having a moment. I'm sorry, Jesse, that comment just made me laugh super hard. Alrighty. I've decided that when we finish this chapter, we're gonna do a halftime where we just chat, but for now, I'm gonna just read through. Alrighty? Alrighty. Let's continue, shall we? Near evening, Rayo Island melted into the distance, and the Nautilus noticeably changed course. After touching the Tropic of Capricorn at longitude 135 degrees, it headed west-northwest. Oh my gosh, another notification. Oh, thank you, Maddie. Pee-pee. I need to turn down those notification noises or something, because notice how every time one of them happens, I have a heart attack. Thank you, Maddie. You're one of my original subscribers. Well, a lot of you are, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. It headed west-northwest, going back up the whole intertropical zone. Although the summer sun lavished its rays on us, we never suffered from the heat, because 30 or 40 meters underwater, the temperature didn't go over 10 degrees to 12 degrees centigrade. Sub and follow Cam to give Cam a heart attack. That's literally what's happening. Also, hello, Lizard. And why are you clipping what I said, Meg? I'm so nervous. Girl boss moment. Y'all, I love you. Thank you. I legitimately almost had a heart attack when the notification happened. Alright. Ooh. Sub to give me a heart attack. Give me money, and in return, I will panic. By December 15th, we had left the alluring Society Islands in the west, likewise elegant Tahiti, queen of the Pacific. In the morning, I spotted this island's lofty summits a few miles to leeward. Its waters supplied excellent fish for the tables on board: mackerel, bonito, albacore, and a few varieties of that sea serpent named the moray eel. And I bet you all of it was salted, but they got no pepper or anything else, so kinda gross. The Nautilus had cleared 8,100 miles. We logged 9,720 miles when we passed between the Tonga Islands, where crews from the Argo, Port-au-Prince, and Duke of Portland had perished, and the island group of Samoa, scene of the slaying of Captain de Longle. That's not how that's said, but I don't know how to say it. Friend of that long-lost navigator, the Count de la Perouse. Then we raised the Fiji... Nope, it's Fiji. I'm having a moment, y'all. Then we raised the Fiji Islands, where savages slaughtered sailors from the Union, as well as Captain Barreau, commander of the Darling Josephine out of Nantes, France. Yeah, I bet they were savages. It's not like you came to their islands and tried to talk to them and they didn't know what you were doing, and you probably... Let's not get into that. Ha 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 ha. How's it going? It's going fun! I'm having fun. I would just like to say, they just said that they logged 9,720 miles, and as in case you want to be keeping track, figuring out how far into this adventure they are, at least distance-wise, it's called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and that does equate out to roughly 69,000 miles. So right now we are about 1/7 of the way through. It is fun so far, yes. I'm gonna do some crab pogs as well if you see me looking down. Perfect. Okay. Ooh, that's a fun one. A little creeper. I gotta get new emotes. I'll do that sometime, but maybe I gotta stream more to do that. Extending over an expanse of 100 leagues north to south and over 90 leagues east to west, this island group lies between latitude 2 degrees and 6 degrees south, and between longitude 174 degrees and 179 degrees west. It consists of a number of islands, islets, and reefs, among which we noted the islands of Vidi Levu, Vanuatu, and Kadavu. It was the Dutch navigator Tasman who discovered this group in 1643, the same year of the Italian physicist Torricelli invented the barometer, and King Louis... Hold on, I gotta read Roman numerals. The 14th ascended the French throne. I'll let the reader decide which of these deeds was more beneficial to humanity. Oh my god. Either he just said the barometer was useless, or he just dissed King Louis the 14th, whom I know nothing about. Kinda mad your sub didn't go through? That's homophobic. Oh no. Creeper. Thank you, Jesse. You're the best. Alrighty. Sorry, I'm just laughing at timed out for 6,000 seconds. That seems like a random number, but that's fine. Coming later, Captain Cook in 1774, Rear Admiral de Entrecastel in 1793, and finally Captain Dumont de Urville in 1827, untangled the whole chaotic geography of this island group. The Nautilus drew near Wailea Bay, an unlucky place for England's Captain Dillon, who is the first to shed light on the long-standing mystery surrounding the disappearance of ships under the Count de la Pérouse, who we just talked about, if you remember. I wouldn't blame you for forgetting. I'm listing a lot of places and names right now, and measurements. Big Chip. Am I a Cool Ranch or nacho cheese kind of gamer? Oh, hello, thank you so much, for stopping by, especially if you've never used Twitch before, and you're guessing ranch. Here's the thing, I love all Doritos. I don't think I've ever met a Dorito that I disliked, including these ones Megan's on right now, which are like spicy chili, I think, or sweet chili, something like that. But when it comes to classic, something I could eat a bunch of and never get bored of, I guess that's both. Okay, I'm gonna stop BSing. If I could only eat one type of Dorito for the rest of my life, I would pick not Cool Ranch, sorry. I'm getting distracted. I'd pick nacho cheese because there's no other chip that does it quite like it. However, in terms of the flavor that I enjoy more, it's probably Cool Ranch. That's the one I would eat the most as a child. I've also seen my friend Badger at school put nacho cheese Doritos on white bread and eat it as a sandwich too many times. It kind of upsets me. So Megan wins. You're eating chili right now. Good for you. I don't think I've ever just sat down and ate chili. Like, maybe I've had chili like once or twice, but I used to not really like beans or cheese, so I probably wouldn't have liked chili very much. Still not a huge cheese fan, but I'll eat beans. Here we go. We're at Wailea Bay, an unlucky place. This bay, repeatedly dredged, furnished a huge supply of excellent oysters. As the Roman playwright Seneca recommended, we opened them right at our table, then stuffed ourselves. These mollusks belong to the species known by the name Ostrea lamellosa, whose members are quite common off of Corsica. This Wailea oyster bank must have been extensive, and for certain, if they hadn't been controlled by numerous natural checks, these clusters of shellfish would have ended up jam-packing the bay, since as many as 2 million eggs have been counted in a single individual. I don't know how much y'all know about oysters now, but it's very difficult for them to naturally thrive in the numbers that we require. So much so that in New Hampshire, I know that volunteers have been asked to raise oysters. Anyway, and if Mr. Ned Land did not repent of his gluttony at our oyster fest, it's because oysters are the only dish that never causes indigestion. In fact, it takes no less than 16 dozens of these headless mollusks to supply the 315 grams that satisfy one man's minimum daily requirement for nitrogen. On December 25th, the Nautilus navigated amid the island group of New Hebrides, which the Portuguese seafarer Quiers discovered in 1606, which Commander Bougainville explored in 1768, and to which Captain Cook gave its current name in 1773. This group is chiefly made up of 9 large islands and forms a 120-league strip from the north-northwest to the south-southeast. At the moment of our noon sights, we passed fairly close to the island of Aru, which looked to me like a mass of green woods crowned by a peak of great height. That day it was Yuletide, and it struck me that Ned Land badly missed celebrating Christmas, that genuine family holiday where Protestants are such zealots. Huh? Why did he put Christmas in quotes? That's kind of funny. Let me read through the chat. I'm just checking up. It's Callie. Oh my gosh. Hi. Thank you for stopping by. I'm not gonna dox you and say your last name, but hello. H&R Block. I'm going to be in New York this Saturday, so if that answers your question. I hadn't seen Captain Nemo for over a week when, on the morning of the 27th, he entered the main lounge, as usual acting as if he'd been gone for just 5 minutes. I was busy tracing the Nautilus's course on the world map. The captain approached, placed a finger over a position on the chart, and pronounced just one word. Vanikoro. This name was magic. It was the name of those islets where the vessels under Count de la Pérouse had miscarried. I straightened suddenly. The Nautilus is bringing us to Vanikoro? I asked. Yes, Professor, the captain replied. And I'll be able to visit those famous islands where the compass and the astrolabe came to grief? If you like, Professor. When will we reach Vanikoro? We already have, Professor. Followed by Captain Nemo, I climbed onto the platform, and from there my eyes eagerly scanned the horizon. In the northeast, there emerged 2 volcanic islands of unequal size, surrounded by a coral reef whose circuit measured 40 miles. We were facing the island of Vanikoro proper, which Captain Dumont d'Urville had given the name Island of Search. Also, I just want to say, Callie, if you want to watch more of my stuff, feel free to follow so you get a little notification when I go live again. I really appreciate you stopping by. Here we go. We lay right in front of the little arbor of Vena, located in latitude 16 degrees 4 south and longitude 164 degrees 32 east. Its shores seemed covered with greenery from its beaches to its summits inland, crowned by Mount Capogo, which is 476 fathoms high. You don't usually hear people say fathoms high. After clearing the outer belt of rocks via a narrow passageway, the Nautilus lay inside the breakers where the sea had a depth of 30 to 40 fathoms. Under the green shade of some tropical evergreens, I spotted a few savages who looked extremely startled at our approach. In this long, blackish object advancing flush with the water, didn't they see some fearsome cetacean that they were obliged to view with distrust? By the way, a cetacean is a whale-like creature. Just then, Captain Nemo asked me what I knew about the shipwreck of the Count de la Pérouse. What everyone knows, Captain, I answered him. And could you kindly tell me what everyone knows? He asked me in a gently ironic tone. Very easily. I related to him what the final deeds of Captain Dumont d'Urville had brought to light, deeds described here in this heavily condensed summary of the whole matter. In 1785, the Count de la Pérouse and his subordinate, Captain de Langle, were sent by King Louis the 16th of France on a voyage to circumnavigate the globe. They boarded 2 sloops of war, which I'm assuming is a type of ship, the Compass and the Astrolabe, which were never seen again. In 1791, justly concerned about the fate of these 2 sloops of war, the French government fitted out 2 large cargo boats, the Search and the Hope, which left Brest on September 28th, under orders from Rear Admiral Bruni d'Entreseau. 2 months later, testimony from a certain Commander Bowen aboard the Albemarle, Albemarle alleged that rubble from shipwrecked vessels had been seen on the coast of New Georgia. But de Entrecasteaux was unaware of this news, which seemed a bit dubious anyhow, and headed toward the Admiralty Islands, which had been named in a report by one Captain Hunter as the site of the Count de la Perrouse shipwreck. They looked in vain. The Hope and the Search passed right by Vanikoro without stopping there, and overall this voyage was plagued by misfortune, ultimately costing the lives of Rear Admiral de Entrecasteaux, 2 of his subordinate officers, and several seamen from his crew. You are following me. Awesome, thank you. You need the notif? What does that mean? Did you hear what happened at Spalding yesterday? Call Louis Lewis one more time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Y'all are gossiping in my chat. Y'all do that. Oh, I've heard both of these things. They're insane. People are crazy. And suck. Here we go. It was an old hand at the Pacific, the English adventurer Captain Peter Dillon, who was the first to pick up the trail left by castaways from the wrecked vessels. On May 15th, 1824, his ship, the St. Patrick, passed by Tikopia Island, one of the few Hebrides. There, a native boatman pulled alongside in a dugout canoe and sold Dillon a silver sword hilt bearing the imprint of characters engraved with a cutting tool known as a burin. Furthermore, this native boatman claimed that during a stay in Vanikoro 6 years earlier, he had seen 2 Europeans belonging to ships that had run aground on the island's reefs many years before. Dillon guessed that the ships at issue were those under the Count de la Perrouse, ships whose disappearance had shaken the entire world. He tried to reach Vanikoro, where, according to the native boatman, a good deal of rubble from the shipwreck could still be found, but winds and currents prevented his doing so. Dillon returned to Calcutta. There he was able to interest the Asiatic Society and the East India Company in his discovery. A ship named after the search was placed at his disposal, and he departed on January 23rd, 1827, accompanied by a French deputy. This new search, after putting in at several stops over the Pacific, dropped anchor before Vanikoro on July 7th, 1827, in the same harbor of Vanna where the Nautilus was currently floating. There Dillon collected many relics of the shipwreck: iron utensils, anchors, eyelets from pulleys, swivel guns, an 18-pound shell, the remains of some astronomical instruments, a piece of stern rail, and a bronze bell bearing the inscription, "Made by Bosin," the foundry mark at Brest Arsenal around 1785. There could no longer be any doubt. Finishing his investigations, Dillon stayed at the site of the casualty until the month of October. Then he left Vanikoro, headed towards New Zealand, dropped anchor at Calcutta on April 7th, 1828, and returned to France, where he received a very cordial welcome from King Charles X. But just then, the renowned French explorer Captain Dumont d'Urville, unaware of Dillon's activities, had already set sail to search elsewhere for the site of the shipwreck. In essence, a whaling vessel had reported that some medals and a cross of St. Louis had been found in the hands of savages in the Louisiade. It's spelled L-U... Sorry, I'm already doing it wrong. Louisiade. So I'm not sure to say that, but it had been found in those islands and in New Caledonia. So Captain Dumont d'Urville had put to sea in command of a vessel named after the Astrolabe, and just 2 months after Dillon had left Vanikoro, Dumont d'Urville dropped anchor before Hobart. There he heard about Dillon's findings, and he further learned that a certain James Hobbs, chief officer on the Union out of Calcutta, had put to shore on an island located in latitude 8 degrees 18 south and longitude 156 degrees 30 east, and had noted the natives of those waterways making use of iron bars and red fabrics. Peter Dickin got him. Gosh. What happened at the middle school? I'm not sure if Megan is typing out a response, but I can always answer just so you don't get any conflicting information, because a lot of rumors have been spread around. At the middle school, these two 7th grade girls got into a fight, and my mother, who works there, tried to break it up, and the girls kept fighting, and 2 more girls jumped in, and a police officer ended up breaking it up and arresting one of the girls. And yeah, I don't think it's important to go into more detail than that. But my mom is okay. Here we go. Pretty perplexed, Dumont d'Urville didn't know if he should give credence to these reports, which had been carried in some of the less reputable newspapers. Nevertheless, he decided to start on Dylan's trail. On February 10th, 1828, the new Astrolabe hove before Tikopia Island, took on a guide and interpreter in the person of a deserter who had settled there, plied a course toward Vanikoro, raised it on February 12th, sailed along its reefs until the 14th, and only on the 20th dropped anchor inside its barrier in the harbor of Vanna. On the 23rd, several officers circled the island and brought back some rubble of little importance. The natives, adopting a system of denial and evasion, refused to guide them to the site of the casualty. This rather shady conduct aroused suspicion that the natives had mistreated the castaways, and in truth the natives seemed afraid that Dumont d'Urville had come to avenge the Count de la Pérouse and his unfortunate companions. But on the 26th, appeased with gifts and seeing that they didn't need to fear any reprisals, the natives led the chief officer, Mr. Jacquinot, to the site of the shipwreck. At this location, in 3 or 4 fathoms of water between the Payou and Vanna reefs, there lay some anchors, cannons, and ingots of iron and lead, all caked with limestone concretions. A launch and whaleboat from the new Astrolabe were steered to this locality, and after going through exhausting lengths, their crews managed to dredge up another anchor weighing 1,800 pounds, a cast iron 8-pounder cannon, a lead ingot, and 2 copper swivel guns. Here we go. Do I like Wendy's? I do like Wendy's. Nuts in your mouth. Ha! Sorry, I do like Wendy's. I actually have coupons for Wendy's right here. Oh, have they expired? Wait, let me look. Okay, so they expire next week. So I need to eat Wendy's now. Maybe I can get birthday Wendy's next week. Should I do a birthday stream, y'all? Do I like Wendy's? Okay, here's the thing. I like McDonald's more, but when I have Wendy's coupons, I like Wendy's. Questioning the natives, Captain Dumont d'Urville also learned that after La Pérouse's 2 ships had miscarried on the island's reefs, the Count had built a smaller craft, only to go off and miscarry a second time. Where? Nobody knew. The commander of the new Astrolabe then had a monument erected under a tuft of mangrove in memory of the famous navigator and his companions. It was a simple quadrangular pyramid, set on a coral base with no ironwork to tempt the natives' avarice. Then Dumont d'Urville tried to depart, but his crews were run down from the fevers raging on these unsanitary shores, and quite ill himself, he was unable to weigh anchor until March 17th. Meanwhile, fearing that Dumont d'Urville wasn't abreast of Dylan's activities, the French government sent a sloop of war to Vanikoro. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that we have... You guys hear popping? Huh. I'm so happy that we have a way to, like... Oh! Is it, maybe from my candle? My candle makes popping noises every once in a while. Anyway. All of this could have been avoided if they had an actual way of communicating. Because, if you noticed, Dylan did this one thing at this island, and then the captain didn't have knowledge of it. So he went out to do it, but then he found out about it. But he still decided to go. And then the French government didn't know if this guy knew about Dylan, so they sent out another ship to where he was to let him know, which is insane. The Bayonnaise, under Commander Legarant de Tromelin, who had been stationed on the American West Coast, dropping anchor before Vanikoro a few months after the new Astrolab's departure, the Bayonnaise did not find any additional evidence, but verified that the natives hadn't disturbed the memorial honoring the Count de la Perouse. This is the substance of the account that I gave to Captain Nemo. They said it was brief, and I was reading it for about 20 minutes. So, he said to me, the castaways built a third ship on Vanikoro Island, and to this day, nobody knows where it went and perished? Nobody knows. Captain Nemo didn't reply, but signaled me to follow him to the main lounge. The Nautilus sank a few meters beneath the waves, and the panels opened. I rushed to the window and saw crusts of coral, fungus coral, Cephalona coral, Aclon coral, sea anemone from the genus Cariphylia. Nope, that's wrong. Curiphylia. Plus myriads of charming fish, including greenfish, damselfish, sweepers, snappers, and squirrelfish. Underneath this coral covering, I detected some rubble the old dredges hadn't been able to tear free. Iron stirrups, anchors, cannons, shells, tackle from a capstan, a stem post, all objects hailing from the wrecked ships and now carpeted in moving flowers. And as I stared at this desolate wreckage, Captain Nemo told me in a solemn voice, Commander La Perouse set out on December 7th, 1785, with his ships, the Compass and the Astrolabe. He dropped anchor first at Botany Bay, visited the Tonga Islands in New Caledonia, headed toward the Santa Cruz Islands, and put in at Namuka, one of the islands in the Hapi group. Then his ships arrived at the unknown reefs of Vanikoro. Traveling in the lead, the Compass ran afoul of breakers on the southerly coast. The Astrolabe went to its rescue and also ran aground. The first ship was destroyed almost immediately. The second, stranded to leeward, held up for some days. The natives gave the castaways a fair enough welcome. The latter took up residence on the island and built a smaller craft with rubble from the two large ones. A few seamen stayed voluntarily in Vanikoro. The others, weak and ailing, set sail with the Count de la Perouse. They headed to the Solomon Islands, and they perished with all hands on the westerly coast of the chief island in that group, between Cape Deception and Cape Satisfaction. And how do you know all this? I exclaimed. Here's what I found at the very site of that final shipwreck. Captain Nemo showed me a tin box, stamped with the coat of arms of France and corroded by salt water. He opened it, and I saw a bundle of papers, yellowed but still legible. They were the actual military orders given by France's minister to the Navy to Commander La Perouse, with notes along the margin in the handwriting of King Louis XIV. Ah, what a splendid death for a seaman, Captain Nemo then said. A coral grave is a tranquil grave, and may heaven grant that my companions and I rest in no other. End of chapter 19. Oh, it's feedback sounds. I wish I saw that earlier. It could be my phone's closeness to the microphone. Sorry about that. You're upset that they framed Bigfoot for murder. Jesse Snapchatted me the other night talking about this documentary. I don't remember what it's on, Hulu, if maybe you said, called Sasquatch, that is about a cannabis farm, but some shady stuff went on, and I guess Bigfoot is involved, and they framed him for murder. Which then Jesse asked me, how would you feel if I framed you for murder? Or something along the lines. And I was like, you wouldn't, would you? That's a really great sticker, Jesse. You hear my dog barking, so I hear my dog barking. Sorry, I'm just vibing to the music right now. let's talk for a bit. I'm done with that chapter. Hi, how's everyone doing? Here's your intermission check-in. How's y'all's months been since I've last seen you? I'll tell you, I've been skateboarding again, which is something I picked up last summer. And I have been making both Hannah and Megan do it with me. And I did fall, and I did scrape up my elbow. You can kind of see. It's not that bad. But yeah, scraped up my elbow. Will you send your newly decorated laptop? Yeah, do that. My laptop that I'm on right now, it's technically, I call it my new laptop, even though I got it at the beginning of first semester. What was I gonna say? Oh, and I haven't transferred my other laptop stickers over. I still have my other laptop somewhere. I just haven't transferred the stickers over. I'm worried about losing them. I literally haven't gone through my backpack since I came home, so it's only been a very long time. Let me check to see if my notification, by the way, like my tweet went out. My Twitter used to be connected, and I thought I disconnected it, and I'm making sure I did. Yes, I did. Hell yeah. Awesome. What are you sending the photo of your laptop stickers on? Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm rating Jesse's laptop stickers. Intermission. I met a lot of insufferable people, but they also met me. That one is excellent. Lily Evans Supremacy. You're a nerd. Hashtag lesbians for James Potter. You're a nerd. Puppet University. I don't even know what to say about that. Weasley's Wizard Wheezes sticker. You're a nerd. What I would like to know what that Spotify sticker is. And then Caution Serious Black Kitty. That's probably the best sticker on here. Some fan art that looks pretty sick. And then a lot of really tiny stickers that are like, are those birds? And other assorted things. I like the mushrooms. Hell yeah. Oop. Sorry, one of my friends just sent me a photo of their leg in a cast. Yoinks. Okay, cool. Rate the total effect out of 10 of the laptop? Well, I think everyone has their own personal taste, so I'll start off with that. Oh, it's Hosier, got you. I don't know if that's how you say it. We listened to that radio at work today. It was actually funny. We were listening on Pandora, right? You know how Pandora doesn't actually play what you want it to play ever? So the girl who requested that artist be played, we were listening, and we were like, not much Hosier is coming through. And so she was like, okay, switch it to Lumineers radio. And I was like, okay. But I didn't know they were making the switch. So I just remember going back to her and being like, oh my gosh, I know a lot of these songs now. And she was like, we're not even on the same radio. We switched. And I was like, oh. Well, I'm not a huge Lumineers fan or anything, but I guess my music taste more aligns with that than Hosier. So then I was just vibing to this Lumineers thing, which I'm pretty sure we heard more Hosier on this other station than on the station meant for it. But this whole time I was waiting for this one song to play. This one Hosier song that I know and like that Chloe showed me. And it just wasn't playing. And then at the very end of the day, literally as I was clocking out, it came on. Also, please tell me if you hear more of those audio pops, because I'm hoping they've stopped. But if they haven't, screw me. But overall effect of the laptop, getting back to what we just said, I would have to rate it out of 10. I'm gonna give it a 7. Pretty solid. I love the sticker choices on it, a lot of them. I think they're very funny. I think the use of space with the small stickers personally isn't something I would do. I saw you said that they're folklore line art, and they are pretty small and they're pretty randomly spaced, which isn't something I would do. But again, you know, each to their own. Bleh. And yeah. I think that's my final rating, 7 out of 10. Room for improvement, but also a passing grade. I'm gonna finish my tea right now, because it's already getting cold. So I guess you can just watch me sip tea in silence for like a minute. There you go. Tea break. Yeah, I hope you clip that just silence of me sipping tea and doing nothing else. I'm gonna have to go through all my clips after this, oh my gosh. Alrighty. We are ready to start back up. Let me restart this YouTube video. Okay. Chapter 20, The Torres Strait. During the night of December 27th through the 28th, the Nautilus left the waterways of Vanikoro behind with extraordinary speed. Its heading was southwesterly, and in 3 days it had cleared the 750 leagues that separated the Peroses Islands from the southeastern tip of Papua. On January 1st, 1868, bright and early, Consul joined me on the platform. "Will master," the gallant lad said to me, "allow me to wish him a happy new year?" "Good heavens, Counsel, it's just like old times in my office at the Botanical Gardens in Paris. I accept your kind wishes, and I thank you for them. Only, I'd like to know what you mean by a happy year under the circumstances in which we're placed. Is it a year that will bring our imprisonment to an end, or a year that will see this strange voyage continue?" "Ye gods," Counsel replied, "I hardly know what to tell you. We're certainly seeing some unusual things, and for 2 months we've had no time for boredom. The latest wonder is always the most astonishing, and if this progression keeps up, I can't imagine what its climax will be. In my opinion, we'll never again have such an opportunity. Never, Counsel. Besides, Mr. Nemo really lives up to his Latin name, since he couldn't be less in the way if he didn't exist." "True enough, Counsel. Therefore, with all due respect to you, I think a happy year would be a year that lets us see everything. Everything, Counsel? No year could be that long. But what does Ned Land think about all this?" "Ned Land's thoughts are exactly the opposite of mine," Counsel replied. "He has a practical mind and a demanding stomach. He's tired of staring at fish and eating them day in and day out. This shortage of wine, bread, and meat isn't suitable for an upstanding Anglo-Saxon, a man accustomed to beefsteak and unfazed by regular doses of brandy or gin." "For my part, Counsel, that doesn't bother me in the least, and I think I've adjusted very nicely to the diet on board, despite the fact that there's no seasoning." Okay, I'm good. "So have I," Counsel replied. "Accordingly, I think as much about staying as Mr. Land thinks about making his escape. Thus, if this new year isn't a happy one for me, it will be for him, and vice versa. No matter what happens, one of us will be pleased. So, in conclusion, I wish you to have whatever your heart desires." "Thank you, Counsel. Only I must ask you to postpone the question of New Year's gifts, and temporarily accept a hearty handshake in their place. That's all I have on me." "You have never been more generous," Counsel replied. And with that, the gallant lad went away. What a nice interaction, oh my gosh. Do you guys like Lord Huron? Is that music? I don't know. By January 2nd, we had fared 11,340 miles, hence 5,250 leagues from our starting point in the seas of Japan. Before the Nautilus's spur there stretched the dangerous waterways of the Coral Sea, off the northeast coast of Australia. Our boat cruised along a few miles away from that daunting shoal where the Captain Cook's ships well nigh miscarried on June 10th, 1770. The craft that Cook was aboard charged into some coral rock, and if his vessel didn't go down, it was thanks to the circumstance that a piece of coral broke off in the collision and plugged the very hole it had made in that hull. I would have been deeply interested in visiting this long 360-league coral reef, against which the ever-surging sea broke with fearsome intensity of thunderclaps. But just then the Nautilus's slanting fins took us to great depths, and I could see nothing of those high coral walls. I had to rest content with the various specimens of fish brought up by our nets. Among others, I noted some long-finned albacore, a species in the genus Scomber, as big as tuna, bluish on the flanks, and streaked with crosswise stripes that disappear when the animal dies. These fish followed us in schools and supplied our table with very dainty flesh. We also caught a large number of yellow-green gilthead, half a decimeter long and tasting like Dorado, plus some flying gannards, authentic underwater swallows that, on dark nights, alternately streak air and water with their phosphorescent glimmers. Among mollusks and zoophytes, I found in our trawls meshes various species of coral, sea urchins, hammer shells, spurred star shells, wentletrap snails, horn shells, and glass snails. The local flora was represented by fine floating algae, sea tangle, and kelp from the genus Macrocystis. Saturated with the mucilage, their pores perspire, from which I selected a wonderful Nemastoma galenariota, classifying it with the natural curiosities in the museum. On January 4th, 2 days after crossing the Coral Sea, we raised the coast of Papua. On this occasion, Captain Nemo told me that he intended to reach the Indian Ocean via the Torres Strait. This was the extent of his remarks. Ned saw with pleasure that this course would bring us once again closer to European seas. The Torres Strait, regarded as no less dangerous for its bristling reefs than for the native inhabitants of its coast. Oh my gosh, they talk a lot about natives, huh? They don't speak on them very positively either. It separates Queensland from the huge island of Papua, also called New Guinea. Papua is 400 leagues long by 130 leagues wide, with a surface area of 40,000 geographic leagues. It's located between latitude 0 degrees 19 and 10 degrees 2 south, and between longitude 128 degrees 23 and 146 degrees 15. At noon, while the chief officer was taking the sun's altitude, I spotted the summits of Arfak Mountains, rising in terraces and ending in sharp peaks. Discovered in 1511 by the Portuguese Francisco Serrano, these shores were successfully visited by Don Jorge de Meneses in 1526, Juan de Grijalva in 1527, by the Spanish general Alvaro de Saavedra in 1528, by Inigo Ortiz in 1545. He's just listing people who have visited, but here's a name we recognize, and by Captain de Monterville in 1827. It's the heartland of the... I'm not gonna say that. I'll say it in the context that it's said here, but they say it's the heartland of the blacks who occupy all of Malaysia. This book was written 200 years ago, and it is very out of touch. Mr. de Renzi has said, and I hadn't the foggiest inkling that sailor's luck was about to bring me face to face with these daunting aborigines. So the Nautilus hove before the entrance to the world's most dangerous strait, a passageway that even the boldest navigators hesitated to clear, the strait that Louis Vaz de Torres faced on returning from the South Seas and Melanesia, the strait in which sloops of war under Captain Dumont Urville ran aground in 1840 and nearly miscarried with all hands. And even the Nautilus, rising superior to every danger in the sea, was about to become intimate with its coral reefs. Are you crap talking our mom, Megan? Oh my gosh. And also, I don't know that band, Jesse. It sounds familiar, but I don't know its music. The Torres Strait is about 34 leagues wide, but it's obstructed by an incalculable number of islands, islets, breakers, and rocks that make it nearly impossible to navigate. Consequently, Captain Nemo took every desired precaution in crossing it. Floating fish with the water, the Nautilus moved ahead at a moderate pace. Like a cetacean's tail, its propeller churned the waves slowly. Taking advantage of the situation, my two companions and I found seats on the ever-deserted platform. In front of us stood the pilot house, and unless I'm extremely mistaken, Captain Nemo must have been inside, steering his Nautilus himself. Under my eyes, I had the excellent charts of the Torres Strait that had been surveyed and drawn up by hydrographic engineer Vincent Dumoulin and Sub-Lieutenant, now Admiral, Covent de Bois, who were part of Dumont d'Urville's general staff during his final voyage to circumvent the globe. Sorry, circumnavigate the globe, not circumvent it. These, along with the efforts of Captain King, are the best charts for untangling the snarl of this narrow passageway, and I consulted them with scrupulous care. Around the Nautilus, the sea was boiling furiously. A stream of waves, bearing from southeast to northwest at a speed of 2.5 miles per hour, broke over heads of coral emerging here and there. "That's a rough sea," Ned Land told me. "Abominable indeed," I replied, "and hardly suitable for a craft like the Nautilus." "I will listen, Jesse." "That damned captain," the Canadian went on, "must really be sure of his course, because if these clumps of coral so much as brush us, they'll rip our hull into 1,000 pieces." The situation was indeed dangerous, but, as if by magic, the Nautilus seemed to glide right down the middle of these rampaging reefs. It didn't follow the exact course of the Zealous and New Astrolabe, which had proved so ill-fated for Captain Dumont d'Urville. It more went to the north, hugged the Murray Islands, and returned to the southwest near the Cumberland Passage. I thought it was about to charge wholeheartedly into this opening, but it went up the northwest through a large number of little-known islands and islets, and steered towards Town Island and the Bad Channel. That's a great name. I was already wondering if Captain Nemo, rash to the point of sheer insanity, wanted his ship to tackle the Narrows where Dumont d'Urville's 2 sloops of war had gone aground, when he changed direction a second time and cut straight to the west, heading toward Guebora Island. By then it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The current was slacking off, it was almost full tide. The Nautilus drew near this island, which I can see to this day with its remarkable fringe of screw pines. We hugged it from less than 2 miles out. Y'all, I gotta make this joke. When he said the Bad Channel, I just thought, that's my YouTube channel. And then I didn't say it out loud, and then the entire time I was reading that, I was like, no, that was kind of funny. So, if you want to look at a bad channel, I'm just kidding, I don't think it's bad, but, you know, my YouTube channel, it's down below, it should be. I also have it linked, you know, around. You can find it. It's Cam Gala VODs and Cam Gala. Same spelling as the Twitch. But here we go. A sudden jolt threw me down. The Nautilus had just struck a reef, and it remained motionless, listing slightly to port. When I stood up, I saw Captain Nemo and his chief officer on the platform. They were examining the ship's circumstances, exchanging a few words in their incomprehensible dialect. Here is what the circumstances entailed. 2 miles to starboard lay Guebora Island, its coastline curving north to west like an immense arm. To the south and east, heads of coral were already on display, left uncovered by the ebbing waters. We had run aground at full tide, and in one of those seas whose tides are moderate, an inconvenient state of affairs for floating the Nautilus off. However, the ship hadn't suffered in any way, so solidly joined was its hull. But although it could neither sink nor split open, it was in serious danger of being permanently attached to these reefs, and that would have been the finish of Captain Nemo's submersible. I was mulling this over when the captain approached, cool and calm, forever in control of himself, looking neither alarmed nor annoyed. "An accident?" I said to him. "No, an incident," he answered me. "But an incident," I replied, "that may oblige you to become a resident again of these shores you avoid." Captain Nemo gave me an odd look and gestured no, which told me pretty clearly that nothing would ever force him to set foot on a land mass again. Then he said, "No, Professor Aronnax, the Nautilus isn't consigned to perdition. It will still carry you through the midst of the ocean's wonders. Our voyage is just beginning, and I've no desire to deprive myself soon of the pleasure of your company." "Even so, Captain Nemo," I went on, ignoring his ironic turn of phrase, "the Nautilus has run aground at a moment when the sea is full. Now then, the tides aren't strong in the Pacific, and if you can't unballast the Nautilus, which seems impossible to me, I don't see how it will float off." "You're right, Professor, the Pacific tides aren't strong," Captain Nemo replied. "But in the Torres Strait, one still finds 1.5 meters difference in level between high and low seas. Today is January 4th, and in 5 days the moon will be full. Now then, I'll be quite astonished if that good-natured satellite doesn't sufficiently raise these masses of water and do me a favor for which I'll forever be grateful." This said, Captain Nemo went below again to the Nautilus's interior, followed by his chief officer. As for our craft, it no longer stirred, staying as motionless as if these coral polyps had already walled it in with their indestructible cement. "Well, sir," Ned Land said to me, coming up after the captain's departure. "Well, Ned, my friend, we'll serenely wait for the tide on the 9th, because it seems the moon will have good nature to float us away." Simple as that. Simple as that. So our captain isn't going to drop his anchors, put his engines on the chains, and do anything to haul us off? "Since the tide will be sufficient," Counsel replied simply. The Canadian stared at Counsel, then he shrugged his shoulders. The seaman in him was talking now. "Sir," he answered, "you can trust me when I say this hunk of iron will never navigate again, on the seas or under them. It's only fit to be sold for its weight. So I think it's time we gave Captain Nemo the slip." "Ned, my friend," I replied, "unlike you, I haven't given up on our valiant Nautilus, and in 4 days we'll know where we stand on these Pacific tides. Besides, an escape attempt might be timely if we were in sight of the coasts of England or Provence, but in the waterways of Papua it's another story. And we'll always have that as a last resort if the Nautilus doesn't right itself, which I'd regard as a real calamity." "But couldn't we at least get the lay of the land?" Ned went on. "Here's an island. On this island there are trees. Under those trees, land animals, loaded with cutlets and roast beef, which I'd be happy to sink my teeth into." "In this instant, our friend Ned is right," Counsel said, "and I side with his views. Couldn't Master persuade his friend Captain Nemo to send the 3 of us ashore, if only so our feet don't lose the knack of treading on the solid parts of our planet?" "I can ask him," I replied, "but he'll refuse." "Let you take the risk," Counsel said, "and we'll know where we stand on the captain's affability." Much to my surprise, Captain Nemo gave me the permission I asked for, and he did so with grace and alacrity, not even exacting my promise to return on board. But fleeing across New Guinea territories would be extremely dangerous, and I wouldn't have advised Ned Land to try it. Better to be prisoners aboard the Nautilus than to die on the Papuan Islands. The skiff was put at our disposal for the next morning. I hardly needed to ask whether Captain Nemo would be coming along. I likewise assumed that no crewmen would be assigned to us, that Ned Land would be in sole charge of piloting the longboat. Besides, the shore lay no more than 2 miles off, and it would be child's play for the Canadian to guide that nimble skiff through those rows of reef so ill-fated for big ships. The next day, January 5th, after its deck paneling was opened, The skiff was wrenched from its socket and launched to sea from atop the platform. 2 men were sufficient for this operation. The oars were inside the longboat, and we hardly had to take our seats. Sorry, only had to take our seats. At 8 o'clock, armed with rifles and axes, we pulled clear of the Nautilus. The sea was fairly calm. A mild breeze blew from shore. In place by the oars, Council and I rowed vigorously, and Ned steered us into the narrow lanes between the breakers. The skiff handled easily and sped swiftly. Ned Land couldn't conceal his glee. He was a prisoner escaping from prison and never dreaming he would need to re-enter it. Meat, he kept repeating. Now we'll eat red meat, actual game, a real mess call by thunder. I'm not saying fish aren't good for you, but we mustn't overdo them, and a slice of fresh venison grilled over live coals will be a nice change from our standard fare. You, Glenn, Consul replied, you're making my mouth water. It remains to be seen, I said, whether these forests do contain game, and if the types of game aren't of such size that they can hunt the hunter. Fine, Professor Aronnax, replied the Canadian, whose teeth seemed to be as honed as the edge of an axe. But if there's no other quadruped on this island, I'll eat tiger. Tiger sirloin. Our friend Ned grows disturbing, Council replied. Whatever it is, Ned went on. Any animal having 4 feet without feathers, or 2 feet with feathers, will be greeted by my very own gun salute. Sorry, 1 gun salute. Oh good, I replied. The reckless Mr. Land is at it again. Don't worry, Professor, just keep rowing, the Canadian replied. I only need 25 minutes to serve you one of my own special creations. By 8:30, the Nautilus's skiff had just gently run aground on a sandy strand, after successfully clearing the ring of coral that surrounds Guebora Island. Alrighty. That's it for today. We're done with chapter 20. How was that for a return to streaming? Here. My lighting's a bit screwy, but let's not worry about it. Thanks, Megan! Let me, just even for the ending, switch back over to my Spotify music that I love so much. There we go. This has been fun. I very much enjoyed coming back. It was nice to talk with y'all again, see your lovely faces, except I wasn't seeing your faces at all. I sound like a teacher on a Zoom call right now, where the teacher's like, could you just turn on your cameras, please? I miss face-to-face interaction. That's how it was at my college, though, because you weren't, like, required to have your face. Your face came on. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm ending it great. But yeah, thank you so much to everybody who stopped by. Once again, thank you for having Twitch and for having a device on which you can watch streaming. I think that's a funnier thing to thank people for than thanking people for coming to my streams. Thank you for bearing with my audio clips that I sometimes would get, the pops, I guess, of the microphone. I'm not quite sure what caused those, except maybe a proximity to my cell phone. Wow, I'm talking like a nerd now because I just finished reading. But yeah, I know that reading streams aren't necessarily the most interesting, but I really enjoy doing them, and I have been playing video games every once in a while, but a lot of them are on my Switch, and I don't have a capture card, so I can't stream those for you. But don't worry, I've been talking to people. Okay, cool, thank you, Megan. I've been talking to people about games to stream, and I've gotten so many amazing suggestions, and yeah, today made me really excited. My voice is a bit sore, which generally happens when I do a reading stream like this, where I'm just talking for an hour and a half. But I, once again, thank all of you for coming. If you're not following, feel free to follow so you know when I go live again. And then I have down below other social media. I usually give a notification that I'm going live on Twitter and on Instagram. And yeah, I think that's it for me. Grennan is a bop, this band that's playing right now. This is the song Imaginary Friends by Grennan. I have their poster right there. Look them up, it's Grenon. They rule. And before I go, just before I forget, yes, we can still do that stream sometime. I promise I haven't forgotten. But before I leave, let me send you over to someone who I've raided before, but I don't really know people when I raid them, so take it with a grain of salt. I raided this person once because they were also reading, and that right now they are playing Sea of Thieves. The name of their stream is Sloop Adventures. So, if nothing else, that perfectly relates to what we've been talking about. But yeah, thank you so much again for coming, and I hope you have a good night. Let me raid? Okay. Goodbye!